The traditional view, which follows the biblical account, says that David and Solomon ruled a powerful kingdom in the 10th century BC.
Hidden for centuries, written in symbols no scholar could fully interpret until now. Grok AI just cracked the Book of Solomon, and what it uncovered is beyond anything in the Bible or history books. For centuries, the so-called Lesser Key of Solomon, or the Forbidden Book of King Solomon, has been surrounded by mystery, fear, and myth. Said to contain rituals for summoning angels and demons, it was long dismissed as medieval superstition. But when Grok AI, an advanced language model, analyzed the text using modern data interpretation, it uncovered something far more complex: codes, messages, and warnings that challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient knowledge. Keep watching, because the final part of Grok's analysis might just explain why this book was locked away for thousands of years. The legendary king who commanded demons. King Solomon remains one of the most fascinating figures in ancient history. Known primarily for his wisdom, the biblical king who ruled Israel around 970 to 931 BC, he supposedly possessed abilities that went far beyond normal human understanding. According to legends that span Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, Solomon didn't just rule over people, he commanded an entire army of supernatural beings. The stories describe how Solomon received a magical ring from the archangel Michael. This wasn't just any piece of jewelry. The ring bore a seal with divine names inscribed upon it, giving Solomon unprecedented power over demons, spirits, and other supernatural entities. These beings weren't just banished or destroyed. Solomon allegedly forced them to work for him, using their supernatural abilities to construct his magnificent temple in Jerusalem. What makes these legends particularly intriguing is how they appear across multiple religious and cultural traditions. Jewish midrash, Islamic Quranic commentary, and early Christian texts all reference Solomon's magical abilities. The first-century historian Josephus mentioned that Solomon possessed incantations for summoning and controlling spirits. This widespread acknowledgement across different faiths suggests these stories held significant cultural weight, even if their literal truth remains debated. The Testament of Solomon, where it all began. The Testament of Solomon represents one of the earliest magical texts attributed to the legendary king. This ancient work tells a fascinating first-person narrative of how Solomon acquired his magical powers and used them during the construction of his temple.
Solomon desired one thing above all understanding. That is the first great secret of his legacy.
Written in Greek and dating somewhere between the 1st and 6th centuries CE, this text laid the groundwork for all future grimoires bearing Solomon's name. The story begins with a demon named Ornias, who was tormenting one of Solomon's favorite workers. This demon would steal half the young man's wages and drain his life force by sucking on his thumb. When Solomon learned of this harassment, he prayed intensely in the temple for help. In response, the archangel Michael descended and presented Solomon with a small ring bearing an engraved seal. The ring contained powerful divine names that could bind any demon. The Testament describes how Solomon gave this ring to the young worker, instructing him to throw it at the demon's chest while invoking Solomon's name. The boy succeeded, and Ornias became bound to Solomon's will. But Solomon didn't stop there. He commanded Ornias to use the ring to capture Beelzebul, the prince of demons himself. Once Beelzebul was under his control, Solomon essentially had command over the entire demonic hierarchy. These supernatural servants were then forced to help construct the temple, their otherworldly strength making possible architectural feats that humans alone could never achieve. The brass vessel, Solomon's supernatural prison. One of the most chilling aspects of Solomon's legend involves what he did with the demons after the temple was completed.
To glorify the kingdom of David and Solomon, making it sound greater than it really was.
According to the law, Solomon didn't simply release these supernatural entities back into the world. Instead, he devised an ingenious prison to contain them permanently. He commissioned the creation of a large brass vessel inscribed with sacred symbols and the ineffable names of God. Into this container, Solomon sealed 72 powerful demons, each with their own unique abilities and ranks. The vessel was then cast into a deep body of water, with some versions claiming it was thrown into the sea near Babylon. This brass prison became a powerful symbol in magical tradition. It represented both control and warning. The idea that supernatural forces could be contained, but also that breaking that seal could unleash catastrophic consequences. The legend takes a darker turn when it describes what happened centuries later. Babylonian philosophers allegedly discovered the vessel while excavating ancient ruins. Believing it contained treasure, they broke the seal. The demons escaped and scattered across the world, which explains their continued presence in human affairs. Only one demon, Belial, chose a different path. He entered into an idol and began delivering oracles in exchange for worship and sacrifices. This cautionary tale served as both a warning about tampering with ancient powers and an explanation for why demonic forces remained active in the world. The Greater Key of Solomon, the Master Grimoire. The Greater Key of Solomon, also known as Clavicular Salomonis, represents the most important and influential grimoire in Western occult tradition.
Solomon bowed before something eternal. He didn't try to outthink the universe. He aligned with its creator.
While attributed to King Solomon, scholars generally agree that this text was actually compiled during the Italian Renaissance, probably between the 14th and 15th centuries. Despite its relatively recent creation, the Greater Key draws upon much older magical traditions spanning Jewish Kabbalah, Arabic mysticism, and Greco-Roman ceremonial practices. This grimoire is divided into two distinct books, each serving different purposes in magical practice. The first book focuses on conjurations, invocations, and curses designed to summon and control spirits of the dead and demons. The second book provides detailed instructions on the proper attire, purification rituals, and other preparations necessary for magical operations. Between these two books sits a collection of intricate illustrations showing magical seals, pentacles, and a mystical alphabet. What makes the Greater Key particularly fascinating is how it frames magical practice within a religious context. All operations are ostensibly performed through the power of God, with invocations addressed to divine authority rather than dark forces. The text repeatedly emphasizes that practitioners must confess their sins, purge themselves of evil, and invoke God's protection before attempting any magical work. This blending of Christian devotion with magical practice reflects the complex relationship between religion and occultism during the Renaissance period. The Lesser Key, 72, Demons Catalogued. The Lesser Key of Solomon, known in Latin as Lemegeton Clavicular Salomonis, emerged in the 17th century as a comprehensive compilation of magical knowledge.
Now Solomon made a treaty with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married Pharaoh's daughter. Then he brought her to the city of David.
While the Greater Key focused on broader magical principles, the Lesser Key provided specific, detailed information about individual supernatural entities. This work is divided into 5 separate books, each dealing with different aspects of ceremonial magic and spirit interaction. The most famous section is the Ars Goetia, which catalogues 72 demons in meticulous detail. Each demon receives its own entry, describing its appearance, rank, powers, and the specific seal required to summon and control it. These aren't generic evil spirits. They're presented as complex entities with distinct personalities, hierarchies, and abilities. Some appear as kings commanding 66 legions of lesser demons. Others hold the rank of duke, marquis, or president in this infernal nobility. The descriptions of these demons range from the bizarre to the terrifying Baal. The first demon listed is described as having 3 heads, one of a toad, one of a man, and one of a cat. Botis appears as a monstrous serpent, but can transform into human form with large teeth, horns, and a deadly sword. Forneus manifests as a great sea monster and can teach all languages to those who successfully summon him. Each demon offers different powers. Some teach sciences and reveal secrets. Others reconcile enemies or provide knowledge of past and future events. The dangerous knowledge within. The grimoires attributed to Solomon aren't just lists of demon names and magical symbols.
Solomon understood something few ever realize. All human knowledge without divine alignment is noise.
They contain detailed instructions for performing rituals that practitioners believed could grant extraordinary powers. The texts describe elaborate preparations requiring specific materials, obtained in prescribed ways, at particular astrological times, and marked with exact magical symbols. Every detail matters, according to these books, because one mistake could result in disaster. The Greater Key emphasizes the need for ritual purity. Practitioners must undergo extensive purifications, wear specially consecrated clothing, and use tools crafted according to precise specifications. Even the animal sacrifices mentioned in the texts had to be performed in specific ways. The grimoires warned that attempting these operations without proper preparation could result in the magician being deceived, possessed, or destroyed by the very forces they sought to command. The Lesser Key provides even more specific warnings about the dangers involved. The Ars Goetia explicitly states that demons are masters of deception who will try to trick practitioners. They might promise power while actually seeking to corrupt or destroy the summoner. The text emphasizes that only those who maintain absolute spiritual purity and use the correct divine names for protection have any hope of successfully controlling these entities. For everyone else, attempting these rituals could invite the worst imaginable consequences into their lives. The Church's condemnation. The Catholic Church viewed Solomon's grimoires as serious threats to both spiritual safety and church authority.
Solomon didn't ask for fame or vengeance against his enemies. He didn't even ask for long life. He asked for a discerning heart.
In 1350, Pope Innocent VI ordered that a grimoire called the Book of Solomon be burned. This wasn't just a casual prohibition. The Pope considered these texts dangerous enough to warrant active destruction. Later, in 1559, the Inquisition condemned Solomon's grimoire again, officially listing it as a forbidden text too dangerous for Christians to possess or read. Why did the Church react so strongly? These grimoires presented a form of spiritual power that existed outside Church control. They suggested that individuals could directly access supernatural forces without priestly mediation or church approval. Even worse, they mixed Christian prayers and divine names with practices the Church considered demonic. This combination made the grimoires particularly threatening because they appeared to validate magical practice using Christian elements. The Inquisition's concerns weren't entirely unfounded from their perspective. During the medieval period and the Renaissance, people genuinely believed these texts could grant real supernatural powers. The Church worried that Christians experimenting with these rituals might actually contact demonic entities, resulting in possession, corruption, or damnation. Whether or not the magic actually worked, the psychological and social effects of people attempting these rituals posed real concerns for church authorities trying to maintain spiritual order. The men who resurrected these texts. Two controversial figures played crucial roles in bringing Solomon's grimoires to modern audiences.
Solomon knew that real leadership begins in surrender, not to men, but to higher wisdom.
Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers and Aleister Crowley. Both were English occultists who spent their lives exploring forbidden knowledge and practicing ceremonial magic. Their 1904 publication of The Book of the Goetia of Solomon the King made the Lesser Key accessible to English readers for the first time, sparking renewed interest in Solomonic magic. Mathers served as a founding member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, one of the most influential magical societies in modern history. According to Aleister Crowley's writings, Mathers claimed to play chess against pagan gods, whom he had successfully summoned. Whether true or embellished, such stories contributed to Mathers's reputation as a serious practitioner of ceremonial magic. He compiled the English translation of the Goetia from various manuscripts, adding scholarly notes and commentary. Crowley, who later became Mathers' rival and enemy, took the work further. He added previously unrelated invocations, including some in the Enochian language supposedly revealed to John Dee by angels. Crowley also incorporated his own magical philosophy into the text, shaping how the grimoire would be understood by 20th century occultists. Together, these two men are largely responsible for the resurrection of occult practices, modern Satanism, and ceremonial magic traditions that continue today. when Grok AI analyzes ancient demons. So what happens when we apply modern artificial intelligence to these ancient texts? Grok AI, developed by XAI, possesses unique capabilities for analyzing historical documents. With its 128,000 token context window, Grok can process entire grimoires in one analysis, identifying patterns that human readers might miss. The AI can cross-reference demon names with ancient mythological sources, trace linguistic connections across cultures, and map out the complex hierarchies described in these texts. When researchers have used AI tools like Grok to analyze the Lesser Key of Solomon, fascinating patterns emerge.
Solomon sought something more eternal, discernment, because with discernment you can smell a lie before it speaks.
The AI identifies clear connections between the 72 demons and ancient Mesopotamian deities. Many of the names and attributes assigned to these demons can be traced back to Babylonian and Sumerian mythology, suggesting that medieval occultists drew upon much older traditions when compiling their grimoires. The demons aren't purely medieval inventions, but rather transformations of ancient gods into Christian demonology. Grok's analysis also reveals sophisticated organizational principles underlying the demon catalogues. The hierarchical structure mirrors medieval feudal systems, with demons holding ranks like king, duke, marquis, and president. But deeper analysis shows that the powers and attributes assigned to each demon follow logical groupings. Demons associated with knowledge and teaching cluster together. Those connected to transformation and deception form another pattern. The grimoire's apparent chaos actually conceals a systematic attempt to categorize supernatural forces according to their functions and powers. The truth behind the legends. Historical scholarship has revealed important truths about these grimoires that separate fact from fiction. King Solomon himself never wrote any of these texts.
Solomon knew that was futile. You don't need to control the world. You need to control your mind.
The biblical king lived around 970 to 931 BCE, while the grimoires attributed to him weren't compiled until many centuries later. The Greater Key likely dates to the 14th or 15th century, and the Lesser Key emerged in the 17th century. The use of French noble titles like Marquis in the demon hierarchies proves these texts come from medieval Europe, not ancient Israel. So why attribute these texts to Solomon? The legendary king's reputation for wisdom and his association with supernatural knowledge made him the perfect pseudonymous author. By claiming Solomonic authorship, grimoire compilers gave their texts authority and legitimacy. Readers were more likely to believe in the effectiveness of magical operations if they thought Solomon himself had developed them. This practice of pseudepigraphy, attributing texts to famous historical or legendary figures, was common in ancient and medieval magical literature. The manuscripts we possess today represent compilations drawing from multiple older sources. The Lesser Keys, Ars Goetia section, derives heavily from Johann Weyer's Pseudo-Monarchia Daemonum, published in the 16th century. The Ars Notoria portion dates back to at least the 13th century and was mentioned by Michael Scott in 1236. These texts evolved over time, with different copyists adding, removing, or modifying content. The original Grimoire of Solomon doesn't exist because these works represent centuries of accumulated magical knowledge attributed to a legendary figure. Modern perspectives on ancient magic. How should we understand these grimoires today? Historians view them as cultural artifacts that reveal medieval and Renaissance beliefs about the supernatural, authority, and the structure of reality. The grimoires show how people in past centuries attempted to systematize their understanding of invisible forces and develop methods for interacting with them. They represent early attempts at what we might call applied supernatural science, systematic approaches to achieving practical results through spiritual means. Modern occult practitioners often interpret the demons described in these texts as psychological archetypes rather than literal supernatural beings. From this perspective, summoning demons represents a method for accessing different aspects of the unconscious mind. Each demon symbolizes specific drives, desires, or psychological forces that exist within every human psyche. Performing the elaborate rituals serves to focus consciousness and create altered states that allow practitioners to confront and integrate these shadow aspects of themselves. Popular culture has embraced these grimoires as source material for countless books, games, movies, and television shows. The demons, catalogued in the Lesser Key, appear as characters in video games and fantasy novels. The Seal of Solomon has become a ubiquitous symbol in horror media. Even mainstream shows like Supernatural have featured the Key of Solomon as a plot device.
Nothing but empty, and you are soaking in it. Angels and demons, you all come here when you die.
This cultural proliferation has made Solomon's magical legacy more influential today than at any point since the original texts were written. The enduring mystery and warning. Despite all our historical knowledge and analytical capabilities, something about these texts continues to fascinate and disturb people. Perhaps it's the detailed specificity of the demon descriptions, which read more like field guides than pure fantasy. Maybe it's the fact that these grimoires have survived for centuries, despite repeated attempts to suppress them. Or could it be that some part of us wonders whether there might be something real behind these ancient claims of supernatural power? The grimoires themselves end with warnings. The Testament of Solomon concludes with the king's confession of how he was ultimately deceived and fell from grace through his desires. He warns readers not to make his mistakes, not to abandon their principles for temptation. This cautionary ending appears across multiple versions of the text, suggesting that even those who compiled these magical instructions understood the dangers inherent in pursuing forbidden knowledge. Whether you view these texts as historical curiosities, psychological tools, or genuinely dangerous magical instruction manuals, they raise profound questions about human nature. Why have people across centuries been drawn to the idea of commanding supernatural forces? What does our fascination with demons and dark magic reveal about our relationship with power, fear, and the unknown? And in an age where artificial intelligence can analyze and pattern match these ancient texts in ways their original authors never imagined, what new insights or dangers might emerge from our continued engagement with Solomon's forbidden books? The forbidden grimoires of King Solomon have traveled through centuries, from ancient legends to medieval manuscripts to modern digital analysis by AI like Grok. These texts reveal humanity's eternal fascination with supernatural power and forbidden knowledge. Whether you believe the magic is real, symbolic, or purely historical, there's no denying the profound influence these books have had on Western occult traditions and popular culture. The 72 demons catalogued in the Lesser Key, the magical ring described in the Testament, and the elaborate rituals of the Greater Key continue to captivate minds and inspire both wonder and fear. What do you think? Are these grimoires dangerous relics of dark magic, or simply fascinating windows into how our ancestors understood the supernatural world? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you found this deep dive into Solomon's forbidden books intriguing, make sure to subscribe for more explorations of history's most mysterious texts.